welcome back to Rain and Pours. I'm Mitch and today I'm painting another paint skin for part 2 of my animal print series. So the skin that I'm going to be painting today is a rainbow and this one is going to be a giraffe. So my idea with this one is I think I've got 20 different colours mixed up. I've got some freshly mixed up colours and I've also got a combination of colours that I've been mixing over the last couple of weeks, just experimenting with colour, and I want to use them all up and make a rainbow giraffe. So my idea with this is to make the skin and pour a nice big gradient of colour, and then to cut that out on my silhouette machine in patches for the giraffe. And the way I'll cut those out is diagonal, so if there's a patch here, I'll cut the next patch right here, like that. So when I separate them onto the actual giraffe, they're going to be spread apart, but the gradient will continue all the way through those patches. Hopefully I can make this a diptych and make it really, really tall. And I think that'd be a really interesting art piece. And I could even do this for a snake or something similar and make it go really long sideways. So I'm going to take you down onto my spinner, which is on the floor again, and we're going to pour this skin. Hey everybody, welcome back. Okay, so today I'm painting the background for my giraffe piece, and I'm going to do that in muted shades of brown and orange. So the colours I have chosen are This Little Piggy Lemon Sorbet and This Little Piggy Ore, and those are going to be my sparkly highlight colours, and I don't want too much of those because I want the background to be quite pale and muted. And that's so that when I put the giraffe neck on here, so the idea is that the neck will come all the way up the canvas and then the head will be up here. And I want lots of space for the rainbow patches that I'm going to cut out of the skins to fit in down here. So the idea is that on my cricket, I'm going to cut out the patches and they're all going to fit nicely on this. So I'm estimating that the neck will take up mostly that much of the painting. We'll have the face up here and the little horns at the... You know what I'm talking about. So the colours I'm going to use, I've got titanium white. I have unbleached titanium. So the titanium white is Atelier. I've got unbleached titanium, antique white, and Van Dyke brown from Matisse. And I have gold yellow from Amsterdam. Now I am going to use custom colours. So I'm going to grab a plate or something that I can mix these up on. Okay, so to mix up my colours, I'm just going to use a Fluid Art Co. Silicone mat, and we're going to go from there. So I'm going to tilt this off to the side for the moment so I can get the mat under here. And you may not be able to see what I'm doing there, so let me just move some stuff out of the way. I've always got crap on my benches here. Okay, so first thing I will do is mix up my pigments. So these are This Little Piggy pigments mixed in with untinted house paint and some gloss varnish. And this is what I would normally use for the Sheleeart Bloom technique. But I'm going to be brush painting these on today. And this one, so that one was Lemon Sorbet, which is a really nice pale yellow colour, but it has an interference gold to it. And this one is This Little Piggy Ore. So I actually plan to use ore in the face of my giraffe. So that's going to tie nicely in, and I'll use all of the same colours that I'm using here in the paint skin, so they'll all tie together. Okay, and I'm going to turn down the brightness here on my camera because it's looking very dark. Okay, very bright, sorry. So I think I want to start with the unbleached titanium, and I'm going to go directly onto the surface, and I haven't used this colour before. I've got a nice new tube, so I'm going to crack that open, and same with the antique white, I believe. No, I have used that. Okay. So I've pretty much used everything, and Atelier doesn't have a little tab on there. Awesome. Okay, so let's get the colours off to the side, and we're just going to do a little swatch on the edge here. Now the whole thing I'm going to be painting with this brush. I would say it's a 1.5 inch brush, 38.1 millimeters, and this is what I'm going to be using to paint my background. And I want to use this so I get some nice blending going on. I don't want to do anything too harsh. Okay, so that's now done. And I'm going to grab my tweezers, which are here. Grab that little piece out. Great. And everything else looks pretty much awesome. So now I'm going to take this chance to lift up the canvas and paint my edges. Actually, you know what? I'm going to wait till it's dry, and once everything's assembled, and then I'll decide what color I want to paint the edges, because I feel like I may want to paint them gold at some point. Okay, so this is what my background is looking like. You can see those This Little Piggy pigments that are really shimmery there. You can see where I've applied those. Little bits of sparkle. And I've just got a really nice muted gradient background. Hello everybody, we're back, and now it is time to assemble my giraffe. I'm excited about this one. This is the second part of the series. Sorry if I keep saying that whenever I come back, but I keep forgetting where I'm up to in the video, because it is a couple of weeks between each part. So if you remember, in the last video, I painted this lovely backdrop. Really amazed and happy at how this turned out. Super happy with it. I love that there are little flecks of gold and lemon sorbet in there. They're those TLP pigments that we dry brushed on afterwards, and the background worked out really nicely. I'm really happy with how the gradients turned out. So this is a really long piece, so it doesn't fit on my screen. So we're going to work with it, and if you can't see what I'm doing, that's because the camera physically can't pick it up. So what I've got, you can see here is my giraffe's head all cut out and in little pieces, so I have to assemble all of those, and I'm going to accentuate this by adding in details with paint and paint markers once we've got everything stuck down. So the first part, the important part, is to get our neck stuck down. So this is our giraffe's neck, and that goes straight down onto our backdrop, and this is the top half of the neck. So I'm just going to try and line those up as best as I can, and I am not too fussed about this join up here because that's going to be hidden by our giraffe's head. So that's going to take up most of that space, because I do want to leave a little bit of negative space at the top. So then we have all of the rainbow pieces to add to our giraffe. Now, the fun part about this is that they're all in a gradient, so I can see where they're meant to go even if I don't know the exact position of them. So the way I'm going to do this is to lay them all out first, and then see where they best fit, and go from there, I guess. Okay, I've printed off my template, so here it is, and this is going to show me which pieces of the cutout go where. So I had this totally wrong. Lucky I did this. So then the question becomes, do I go for the different gradient, or do I go for cell structure? So we'll do the first part with gradient first, and then we'll assess the cell structure to see if we need to change which piece goes in there. So I'm going to start sticking all of this down. I'll be back once everything is glued and ready to move on to the next step. Okay, I'm back now, and I have glued all of the patches onto the neck. So they are all nice and secure, and all I've used to glue those on is some Jo Sonja gloss varnish. I haven't diluted that or anything, it's just pure gloss varnish in a little bowl, and I just brushed that on with a paintbrush. Now I'm going to attach the head next. I'm going to attach that to the neck, and I'm going to paint here on the actual neck instead of the back of the head, so that way I know where I'm sticking it. I've also stuck down the snout and the nostrils onto the head. I'm just going to position this here. Now, while I did all of that, I did cut a few pieces here and there that I didn't think quite fit. So I made them fit just a little bit better. And now that I've got the head on the place that I need it to be in the right position, then I can glue the rest of it down. And you really do not need much varnish at all for that, and that will dry super quickly, and it's not going to go anywhere. Now, the reason I use the gloss varnish is because when it dries, it will go completely transparent and glossy, and you're not going to notice it on top of the skin. Alright, so this is what we're working with so far. Absolutely loving it. Super duper shiny from all those little piggies in there. Okay, now the next step is gluing this to the canvas. So this is an important question I need to ask myself, and it is, do I want to put anything in the background of this piece? So do I just want to outline the giraffe with a black marker? And I do think I want to do a black paint marker. Do I just want to outline it and have it stand out from the background, or do I put something else on the background to make this pop even more, or just add a little bit of depth to the background? At this stage, I'm not entirely sure or convinced of what I want to do with the background, so I may leave it for a day. I'll let this sit, I'll let all that varnish dry, and that will give me a chance to consult with some friends. I'll ask Billy and Lisa what their opinions are, and we'll come back and finish this off. Okay, hey everybody. So I didn't realize that my camera had stopped recording for some reason. My computer decided to do a restart halfway through filming this video. So all of this work that you see I've done here did not get recorded. So I'm going to go over what I did and how I got here. So I was starting to put the contouring onto the face of my giraffe, and I wasn't happy with how it was looking, because it was looking very, I don't know, hand-drawn, because it was. So I obviously messaged my little group of amazing artist friends, and both Lisa and Bree said to go with the airbrush. So Bree said go with airbrush, Lisa sort of agreed, and they were helping me out. So what I did is I contoured the nose with some Van Dyke Brown and Mars Violet, both by Matisse, and I've just thinned those down into a little cup, which is here, and I used some surface tension breaking medium. This is from Matisse, and basically that makes your paints thinner without diluting them too much to run them through the airbrush. So I was struggling a little bit with some spattering, and that medium perfectly solved it. So there was no splattering after I added that. So definitely recommend if you're going to do any airbrushing, especially if you're mixing up your own acrylic paints. So that's the face, and now I'm going in with my detail liner and putting in all of the outlines and details. Now for this, I am using a Posca paint pen, and this is what it looks like at the end. It is a brush tipped nib. Let me see if I can focus. Camera is really struggling to focus on this. There we go. So you can see the end of this is flexible like a paintbrush, and it's just got a canister on the top. You push the button and the paint comes out. So that's what I'm using to go around the outside and the details of my giraffe. So the other thing I did is I airbrushed over the eyes. I've got the eyelashes here. These aren't glued on just yet. I'm waiting for some more creative advice before I stick them down permanently. But I'm really happy with how things are going. So now I'm just putting in details. So with these paint pens, you can get a really fine line, or you can get a really thick detailed one. So I'm just putting in some random details to give the suggestion of shapes where I'm not actually putting in the entire shape. And this is sort of just a bit of a cartoony element, which I really like. And I'm going to carry this down into here. And this one I'll do on the top. And the ears haven't been stuck down yet either, because I am doing the border of the African grass here. So I will wait until I've done that before I stick the ears down. So I really like that. It's kind of cute and just gives the illusion of shape. So I'll do the same thing under the eyes here when I figure out what I want to do. But here on the nose, do I go put some shaping there? I don't know. May have to contour that some more. But what I was doing down here on the spots, I'm just putting in some contour lines following the curves of the patches. And I'm just using the very tip of this brush and ever so gently following the paint skin. And just adding some details to these patches. Now the look that I'm going for is that these will almost look three-dimensional. So just going to continue doing this. So I airbrushed on some black onto these patches so you can see that, and it makes these look like 3D bubbles rather than giraffe spots, which I think is really kind of cool. And so I'm going with that. Go off the edge, and I'm just trying to make them all a little bit different. But always keeping just 1 to 2 lines, trying to go as thin as possible. And because I am a lefty, I'm working top to bottom so that I'm not going over my lines with my hand and smudging everything, which I tend to do quite a bit. And this should be nice flowy watercolor paint. Airbrush paint. So the way we're going to check is switch on the airbrush, and at the moment I have the airbrush set to about 20 psi. You don't need too much, and this will allow me, as I've found over the last couple of days, the best control for airbrushing. So I'm going to check this on some paper first and on my hand to make sure it's flowing out correctly, and it is. So now we can go in, and I've got a paper towel handy so I can blot the airbrush, and I'll show you what I mean in a sec. So let's try and get this happening, and I'm going to try to do this without getting in the way, but maybe impossible. So I'm always pushing on the air first. So my airbrush is a dual action airbrush, which means I push down for air and pull back for color. So if I spray over this brown portion here, I don't know if you can see that turning white, but basically the more you pull back on the trigger, the more paint will come out, but the air is constant on. So having a low PSI for this is better, so you can better control where you're going. So always got the air on, and just doing a light highlight. I'm not even pulling back on the trigger. Okay, so what I did there is I just went through with a brush with some isopropyl alcohol, just a fine tip brush with some isopropyl alcohol, and got into some of the tighter areas where I didn't want to have overspill of that spray, that airbrushed paint on the gold. And that really helps get into all those nice tight areas. And then for the rest of them, I just used the back of the same brush with a baby wipe to get rid of the majority of the overspill in the larger areas. And it just helps to clean everything up and make it look a little bit more defined. Now, I was going to outline all of my patches, but I think I'm very happy with how this has turned out. Now, just need to figure out what to do with the face because it's pretty much blending all together. I'm kind of loving how this is turning out, guys. So I'm going to take a quick pic, send this to my friendlies, and I'll be right back and see if there's anything else that I should do. Okay, so I have consulted with the art gods, in other words, Brie and Lisa, and I think I am going to finish up this piece right now. So the last thing I have to do is stick on these eyes. Now, the problem I was facing was the eyes just have not been looking right to me, and it's because I had these big bulky eyelashes on there. So the first thing I'm going to do is come in and clean up under the eyes a little bit more. I now have them all fixed up, so I'm going to grab my airbrush back on. Let's see what I need to adjust. I do need to make this dot a little more defined, and same as this one. Just the little catch lights in the eyes. Now, this is my little giraffe. It looks so cool. Now, do I need to add any details, highlights, or anything? If not, we are almost ready to seal this with the first coat of varnish to lock everything in place. And I think I'm ready to make that leap. Yes, so once we seal this, we can't touch anything underneath, but we can add things on top and work with the stuff on top. So just making sure I'm happy with everything on the background, because again, once it's sealed, it's sealed. Now there are a couple of little splashes up the top here, so I'm just going to mildly wipe those away with my Dettol wipe. Now the problem that has occurred up here is that because I smudged some black, it's also taken away the background. So what I can do is just either airbrush some colour back in or use a regular paintbrush. I'm going to use a regular paintbrush, and I do still have some colour mixed up. And that's one of these ones, and I'm just going to use a long bristled brush to brush that in, and I will make that slightly paler. I'm just going to mix it straight on the lid here, just a touch of white, and just a very slight dab of that yellow colour. We're basically just tinting this white to the same colour as the background, and I didn't realise you were still zoomed in, so you probably didn't see any of that. And we're just going to brush this on here like it was intentional. Now that is very white, so I'm going to add a tiny amount of Van Dyke Brown. To make it more of that light tan colour. That should blend it much better with the background. And I'll just do the same thing, a little bit more brown in there, darken that up, I've nearly matched that colour originally. Cool. Okay, just going to shut the lid on my paint, and that's done. So the last step is for me to apply the border, and I will show you the finished giraffe. Okay everybody, it is time to finish off the giraffe. So now comes to, I think, the most nerve-wracking point of the project, and that is getting the border onto this giraffe. So what I have done through the magic of technology is I have used my silhouette cutting machine to cut a border that is the exact length and width of my canvas here. So I think it is slightly longer than the canvas, which is what I intended, so that I have room to play with wrapping the edges, and also to make sure that I do have enough. So in this regard, we are just going to get started and hope for the very best. So the way I'm going to do this is, I was going to start at one end and unroll it this way, and I may do that because I feel like it's going to be easier and more manageable than trying to do it this way. So the important thing is, I'm going to keep this center bit. And the reason I'm keeping this center bit is because I can use that. There's plenty of space here, and I've just cut the grass around the outer edges. So to make sure I keep that center bit, I'm going to only peel away the grass portion, and as we unroll everything, we'll leave that center bit attached to the roll. So I'm basically just going to curl this underneath itself and pull it out from the other end. So here we go. So the first and most tricky part is getting a corner pulled up, and because this is going to be stuck down to the canvas, I just want to have it really flat and stuck at one end, so we have a base laid down. And this is super super delicate. So it's not delicate as in the material is delicate. The process is going to be delicate because I've got so many bits sticking up, sticking out, and going to get in the way. So the way to do this is to fold this underneath, and I may have to take off some more of that vinyl first. I'm going to fold that underneath, and let's find our corners. If I find a corner first, I can adjust everything else. And because this is permanent adhesive vinyl, once it's stuck down, it's not moving. So, making sure I'm aligned on the sides. Off to a great start. Okay, and let's bring this down. Now I do have a little bit of room for adjustment either side because I cut this all in one piece. The sides are independent of each other, and I can move them in or out slightly. And I'm just going to make sure it's all stuck down here, stuck down there, and just keep pulling away at this vinyl from underneath. And I'm just watching what's happening on the top here to make sure the vinyl's not getting caught on itself, and ensuring that it is staying stuck where we want it to stick, and not sticking where it doesn't want to stick. Now, because we have applied one layer of gloss varnish on this, it's very easy to pull this up and make a couple of changes. And I'm not going to burnish this down just yet until we've got this whole border applied and I'm happy with how everything is looking. I will paint my edges black, and just that little bit of a fold there, I can even that out across a couple of blades. Okay, now I'm going to squash down all of my edges, fold them all over, and then I'll go around and do all of the blades of grass. And then hopefully when I seal this with the varnish, everything is going to stay nice and put where we have it. All right. I am so happy with this. It looks awesome. Right, I've got a fresh blade in this one, so I'm going to take my blade here and I'm going to rest it along the edge of the canvas and just run the blade straight through the vinyl. Now it has skipped a little bit, not a problem, as this is the bottom of the piece. And we are going to paint it anyway. Perfection! Oh, so happy. That's amazing. One single piece, guys. Alright, that blade isn't going to cooperate, so done. Throw that little bit of vinyl in the bin, we don't need that anymore. And all of these blades of grass can now be burnished on. And to finish off, I'm going to take a stir stick and just go around the very edges of the vinyl. I'm not doing it on top because I don't want the texture of the canvas to come through the vinyl too much. And I'm just burnishing down the very sides of the vinyl. And that's just going to activate that glue a little bit better, a little bit of that adhesive, and make sure it is nice and stuck to the canvas. Like I said, once we seal it with the varnish, those edges shouldn't go anywhere. Now I do have a little bit of a fold here in this corner. So I'm just going to snip the side and make sure that's stuck down nicely. All right. How cool is that? One piece of vinyl, I can't get over that. Cannot get over how easy it was to do as well. I just set up my file the same size as my artwork in Silhouette Studio and set it to print, and I printed off the roll for that. Now the last thing I need to do is attach the ears, which go up here. And the giraffe is finished. So this has now got 4 or 5 coats of varnish on here. I forgot how many I applied, but basically I wanted to make sure that there's enough varnish on there that the edges and the grass stays stuck down, because I am finding this vinyl quite flimsy, only because I sprayed a layer of gloss varnish on first, which would make it really difficult for the adhesive on the vinyl to stick. But this is the final piece, and I am really super happy with how this has turned out. It's so big I can't get it in the camera all in one shot that way. But look at these gorgeous details that we put into the patches. They almost look like 3D pebbles. And we've got that airbrush shading on the face. And I am really sorry that my camera cut out halfway through. Not much I could do about that. But yeah, that's the final piece. So I'm really eager to get cracking on some of the other animals in this series. So the next 2 up would be my fighting fish and my leopard, which I will get cracking on as soon as this one is done. So if you're liking what I'm doing here, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.